Michael, two things. One, everybody says nicest guy ever, humble. He doesn't have to be. And also, I had to ask him. He's in great shape, man.
Yeah, he is.
Dude, he is. Hi, Mike. Thank you.
I feel pretty good. I'm back to my high school weight, but as I'm sure you've seen with former players, I finished playing at about 295, and then 2 years later, I kept eating like I was playing, but not working out anymore. I got up to like 320 and felt awful, and so I knew I had to get my way down. I credit my wife with it. I also must be still worth more alive because she's feeding me well.
Yeah, exactly.
Once she starts feeding me badly, I'll sleep with one eye open.
In my book, I write up this new book that I wrote, Football Done Right, and I talk about all the great players. Alan Page was one of those guys that really got it before anybody else. He was losing weight as he kept playing, and he, even though in an era where, and he was a great inside pass rusher. I mean, he would be dominant today if he played, but that to me is some of the things I think players lose sight of, that when you get older, you kind of cut weight.
So one of the more amazing things I have found, because I've called college games, calling NFL games, is in college, the linemen, everybody are bigger, and then when they get to the NFL, they start to lose weight a little bit. And I always found that fascinating because the athletes are so great in the NFL that guys sometimes have to cut weight to stay with them athletically.
Sure.
So I always wonder why in college they're trying to put so much weight on these guys, because then they get to the NFL and they got to cut back a little bit because 340 might not be working for you, but get down to 3 1/4 and you'll be able to move your feet a little better and stay with some of those edge rushers.
We were just talking about the Defensive Player of the Year and Nick Bosa. Those Bosa sons, they're just freaks, right?
So I have called a couple of 49er games this year, and before the game starts, I'm always down in the field trying to talk to players and coaches and this, and I see Nick Bosa down there. I literally text like my wife and stuff. I said, this dude's unbelievable.
Yeah.
I mean, it is. I don't know if he has more than 3% body fat.
No.
It's crazy,
insane.
and I guess his diet is amazing. That coming right to the end of my career, I retired in '94. Supplements started becoming a thing where players started realizing, and I don't mean steroids, I mean like actual real supplements, because steroids were certainly around when I was playing, that players started to treat their bodies a lot better then, and it's really hit a new level with chefs and the way their own personal chefs and the way they train in the off season and how they treat their bodies. Incredible.
Yeah, and I think clubs have done a better job. There used to be we would never feed the players, and we're not spending money on that. And now every team has a cafeteria.
Yeah.
They've got the 49ers have one of the best chefs in the country. I mean that you go eat there, it's as good as any place.
And it's now starting in college. I mean, we would have training table at Notre Dame, and you have that. But now the nutritionists that are out there, the snacks. I mean, we all remember not long ago when you couldn't give a student athlete a snack, which was the dumbest thing in the world.
Right.
Now, they have great snacks. They're hydrating right. They're eating properly. So you're learning that, high school to college before you even get to the NFL.
No doubt.
When you went to Houston, this is a random for me. I was a big Houston, Curtis Duncan and Gibbons. Was Jack Pardee there when you got there?
No.
That's before. That was before.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
Who was coaching when you got there?
When I got there, that was Jerry Glanville's first head coaching job.
Oh, my gosh.
And Jerry I've known Jerry, obviously, since that for years. And Jerry would dress in all black. He'd wear that long black duster coat. And every away game, he would leave 2 tickets at will call for Elvis Presley.
Yeah. Is that true?
That's true. Yeah, that's true.
He was a character.
He was a character. So we got him as a first-time head coach. My years were not great there by any stretch from a record standpoint. And then I got to Philly, and it got better there. But it was interesting. I played for a couple of coaches, and Jerry Glanville, who loved when you fought. And then I went to Buddy Ryan, who, if you didn't fight, you weren't going to be on his team.
Well, you remember him and Gilbride.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Sorry, Michael, but did Glanville was still coaching. He's a lifer. He was still coaching in the I think he was running a defense in the CFL just recently.
He coaches, and he might be a coach in the XFL now that's coming out, or USFL.
I mean, that's a lifer.
There are guys, it's in their blood.
Yeah, I mean he was a good, the shtick kind of made you think he wasn't a good coach, but he really was. But that Houston team, that's the Monsignor, I call him, Mike Hollowback, who collected all that talent down there, Patrick. I mean, for them not to have gone to championship games, that offensive line, Steinkuhler, Matthews, Munchak. I mean, Rozier was the best. I mean, they were great. They weren't good. They were great.
With Jeffries. And remember, they got the Frank Reich game. that was the comeback.
Yeah, and that was Pardee, and that was my man.
Right.
The defensive coordinator was there. I forget his name, but he was, he got fired right after that game. There, it was a hard one. But those were great teams. They're some unbelievably talented teams.
Yeah, that O-line especially, because I had to play against them in practice every day.
Yeah, they were unbelievable.
Incredible. Mike Munchak is still the lineman because I wasn't the greatest athlete in the world. I made it through 9 years by a lot of film study and trying to pick things up. And I would always try and pick up a stance as a guy digging in with a foot, as a pressure on the fingers, blah, blah, blah. Mike Munchak had the most neutral stance every single play, run or pass I've ever seen.
Can you imagine practice against Munchak and Bruce Matthews every day?
Yeah.
Think about that.
Literally two
those
of the
guys,
greats.
Their uniforms never got dirty.
Bruce Matthews, our running test was the 12.5-minute run, which was ridiculous, by the way.
Yeah.
I mean, why the tests are anything other than something you're training for football, I never know. Bruce ran it with the DBs. At 300 pounds.
You got to be kidding.
No, he's unbelievable.
Dude was unbelievable.
He could play center one play, go play guard. Then he would long snap. He would just take his hands up and long snap.
This is back when you could drill the long snapper, so there were more linemen that were long snapping because you could roll them at that point. But he was unbelievable. He's the best athletic lineman I've ever seen in my life.
He's a freak of
nature. Perfect technique, you're telling me.
He was, and then Munchak was the guy now that I think of when I think of Munchak is Zach Martin.
Yeah.
And Zach Martin's at a point now where he's walking into the Hall of Fame. Zach Martin, same stance every single time.
That's a good comparison.
Great technician with his hands, great recovery, incredible player.
Draftkings, of course. Mike Golic joins us here on the Lombardi line. Is that Peyton over there? Were you surprised Peyton, I think it might be Sean Payton over there getting interviewed. Were you surprised he took the Denver job?
No, not really. I mean, so if you're a coach, what are you looking for? You're looking for what type of ownership do you have? That's why when people were floating out, was Staley going to get fired in from the Chargers after the playoff loss? Right. Everybody said, "Oh, Sean Payton's going to." Sean Payton wasn't going to go there. They don't pay. They weren't going to pay what Sean Payton's going to get. And I still haven't heard. I don't know, Mike, if you know what Sean ended up getting there. But so you go to ownership. They have billions. Yeah. They're good. And then you look at your quarterback and your defense. Their defense is really good.
Yeah.
Your quarterback, you scratch your head a little bit because he was a great quarterback and had a horrific year. But can you rebuild some of that and get that back a little bit? So I'm sure he's hoping on that. But that's what head coaches are looking for. And I do love the defense he has there. So, but already to have to deal with it's going to be my coaches and the players, and that's it. As far as I had never heard of that, Mike. I've never heard of it either. You haven't? Okay.
No. I mean, we had when I was in New England, we had Alec, but he was a trainer. He would do all that, and he was really helpful. But nobody was coming in coaching the quarterback that wasn't on the staff.
Would they have their own office?
It was absurd. I've never heard of that.
I mean, multiple parking spaces. I was reading that and texting with other former players I know, and they were like, "We've never heard of this.
Yeah,
I've never seen anything
Sean Payton
like
shut
this."
that down as soon as
he shut it down immediately.
I've never even heard of it. I mean, because you want what you want is only one person talking to the quarterback. You don't want multiple people. You want Sean's going to talk. Even the assistant quarterback coach doesn't want to talk to him.
How many cooks in the kitchen do you want?
Yeah,
I mean, it's crazy. And plus, you could pull it off with a first-time head coach, young guy like Nathaniel Hackett. But you're not pulling that off with Sean Payton.
Golic and Smetty, of course, the podcast. Your son's been doing his podcast, which is great the whole week here. This experience, I mean, you've done it a million times, but I actually think Phoenix did a pretty good job the way they galvanized everything.
Well, I'm just happy we're kind of back to the normalcy of what we're used to. This is my 26th or 27th Super Bowl, so Radio Row, and I'm just glad to see people again.
Yeah, I know.
Around,
it's nice. You're right. Yeah. The game itself, it's 1.5 points on the number, so Eagles a little bit of a favorite here. Where are you sitting right now in the game?
Well, I mean, because I'm on the broadcast team for Westwood One, I don't get to make a pick. That's okay. That's okay. But, I mean, you look at the obvious things here, the pass rush of Philadelphia. Is it going to make Mahomes move? You saw him roll left in the title game and try and throw back and tweak his ankle a little bit. Will that happen again? I expect the backs, Isaiah Pacheco and Jared McKinnon, who, by the way, who picked that one that he was going to lead running backs in touchdown reception? Is Mahomes going to have to dish the ball quickly? The one thing Kansas City does, they have a lot of bells and whistles with motion, but they'll probably use that to chip on those edge rushers, Reddick and Sweat, with a back or with a tight end. Might have to delay their routes a little bit. And then for Philadelphia, can they get that running game going? And because Jalen coming back from the injury has not been great.
He hasn't been
so I think people are waiting to see, can he get back to that kind of MVP? But they'll want to run the ball, and then where will Chris Jones go? That's the big thing. I think he'll stay more inside instead of going out on Lane Johnson. They'll try and get a linebacker.
I think they put him over Kelsey.
Well, either that or occupy Kelsey and let him push a guard, but he's so big. You're right. He might just try that bull rush move. But Kelsey's a dog in there. Wow.
Westwood won on the broadcast for the Super Bowl. Of course, Draftkings is the podcast. Mike Golic. And by the way, if those watching,
no problem.
There is no secret. He said he eats well and he moves.
Eat and move.
That's it.
Eat and move. There isn't a secret. We all know how to do it. We just have to go out and do it. And luckily, I have a wife who's kicking my butt to do it.
Go to VSiN.com/subscribe to become a VSiN Pro subscriber today.